Some of you may know this about me, but I really like to play games. Uh, the girls and I like to play a card game where you make sushi. Uh, when I was a kid, the game that I probably spent too much time on was chess. Uh, and lots of games when you're making sushi with cards or when you're playing chess, um, a lot of times, whatever your strategy or your plan is, one of the most important parts of being able to carry that out is making sure that the other player doesn't know your plan or can't figure it out until you've crossed that point where it's too late for them to stop it. So in chess, you might uh, disguise your plan of how you're planning to capture their king. In the sushi card game, where you're trying to make a certain set where it's only worth points if you get all the pieces of the sushi, you don't want the other players to notice what you're building towards until it's too late for them to take all those cards that prevent you from having the set. But in lots of strategy games, that's an important piece where you're trying to disguise or in some ways deceive the other players about what your real actual plan is. In Galatians 6, 7, 8, I'd like to talk tonight just for a few minutes about disguise and deception. Paul says to the Galatians, he encourages them to not be deceived. He says, "Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. Whatever one sows, that they will also reap. Sow to the flesh, you reap corruption. Sow to the Spirit, and reap eternal life." And like in the games that I was discussing, and in this verse, there's a small way where you can be deceived by other people, where you can look and see someone who's living a life to the flesh, and they're reaping the benefits of that today, and you can be deceived to think that that's the better way. But I think that there's a bigger warning here than being deceived by others. And the bigger warning here is self-deception. To me, the thrust of this verse, when it's saying do not be deceived, is it's saying don't deceive yourself into thinking that you can do certain things and avoid the consequences of those actions. So I'd like to think about some ways how we might be deceiving ourselves. So some things that I think we can count as a virtue or as a good, where it's not actually good, where good maybe can't even be found. Sometimes when we're silent, we're imitating peace. We're using silence to imitate peace. Sometimes when we're passive, we think we're patient, where our passivity imitates our patience. Sometimes we tell ourselves that our joy is real when it's really only pride. Sometimes we express niceness and we count it as kindness. Sometimes we act morally in an imitation of goodness. Sometimes we pour out people-pleasing to imitate faithfulness, and sometimes we show lust in imitation of love. But again, don't be deceived in a small way by others, but in a big way, don't be self-deceived.